Hi. I don't know kung saan sisimulan ito pero kailangan ko na siyang ilabas in a way that is clear and honest. I'm a caregiver sa kapatid ko. They were recently disabled. Biglaan yung nangyari, parang may linya sa buhay namin na nahati sa before at after. Mahal ko sila, walang duda dun. But I'm also drowning. And every time I admit that, kahit sa sarili ko lang, parang may kasamang kasalanan. For the avoidance of doubt, I am not posting this to blame anyone. I am not asking strangers to attack my relatives or my family. I am not here to farm drama. I am here because I feel trapped between love and exhaustion. And I'm starting to worry na I won't survive this emotionally, mentally, and even physically if I keep pretending na kaya ko pa. I'm in my late 20s. I have a job. I have bills. I have a life that used to feel like mine. Ngayon, it feels like my life is a schedule, a checklist. A series of alarms sa phone, gamot, check ng vitals when needed, meals, rehab, or follow-up appointment, refill ng prescriptions, lab results, paperwork, and calls that I cannot ignore. I'm not exaggerating when I say that my days are measured by what might go wrong. At first, I told myself, temporary lang to. Kasi ganyan naman kapag may biglaang injury or medical event. May acute phase, may rehab, may adjustment. Then, weeks became months. And even though recent pa rin sa utak ng lahat yung nangyari, the reality is, we are already living in a new normal. Tapos unti-unti, napansin ko na the temporary life became the only life. I didn't notice the transition because I was busy being useful. Ang caregiver role, hindi siya isang biglaang title na ibibigay sa'yo with a ceremony. It happens quietly. One day, ikaw lang ang available. One day, ikaw yung may sense kausap sa hospital. One day, ikaw yung marunong magbasa ng discharge instructions at may pag-usap sa rehab team. Then, you become the default. You become the person everyone assumes will handle it. Walang meeting. Walang written agreement. But somehow, it becomes binding in practice. Sometimes I wonder, paano ako napunta dito? I remember standing beside the bed, watching my sibling's face habang sinasabi nila na hindi ko na maramdaman or hindi ko maigalaw and thinking, okay, I'll do what I have to do. At that moment, it felt like a vow, not a dramatic one, just a quiet decision. And maybe that's why I find it hard to step back now because it feels like breaking something I promised. My sibling needs help with daily tasks now. Not all tasks, but enough that you can't fully relax. May assistance with bathing, with dressing, with transferring safely, with mobility. May days na kailangan ko magising before sunrise para siguraduhin they ate something before meds or before therapy exercises. May days na I watch them do a simple movement and I'm counting in my head. Did they overstrain? Are they in pain? Do we need to adjust? Should I call the therapist? It's a simple scene, someone trying to sit up, pero in my mind, it's risk assessment. And then there's the emotional part. Hindi lang to physical care, it's also being present, being patient, listening to the same questions, babalik pa ba? Hanggang kailan? Normal ba to? And not having answers that feel fair. Some days my sibling is quiet and determined. Some days they are angry. Some days they cry in a way that sounds like they're trying to hide it. I hear it anyway, and I don't know what to do besides staying there. On paper, that sounds like just be supportive. In reality, it's a slow erosion of your inner quiet. There's a guilt that comes with resentment because yes, I get resentful. I get resentful that my mornings start with caregiving and end with caregiving. I get resentful when I hear other people talk about weekend trips, spontaneous coffee, or just sleeping in. I get resentful when I open social media and see friends building their careers, falling in love, moving to new places. Then I hate myself for that resentment because how can I begrudge them living when my sibling is fighting for basic function? I want to be clear. I do not resent my sibling as a person. I resent the situation. I resent the system that makes caregiving feel like a private burden. I resent the silence. I resent how easy it is for people to say prayers or ingat kayo and then move on with their day. I resent how praise can feel like a trap. Ang bait mo, ang strong mo, because if I'm strong, then I'm not allowed to collapse. At some point, I started using legalese in my head, maybe as a way to keep myself composed. Like, I acknowledge my duty of care, I will act in their best interest, I will document medications, symptoms, and therapy instructions, I will comply with appointments. It sounds cold, but it's how I keep order. When your emotions are loud, structure becomes a life raft. But structure is not rest. There are nights na I lie down and my body is tired, pero my mind keeps running. Anong oras ulit yung next therapy? Na-refill ko ba yung prescription? What if they fall while I'm asleep? What if I miss a sign of complication? What if something happens and people say, bakit di mo napansin? I am not a clinician. I am not trained for this, not formally. Yet the responsibility feels absolute. Some people think caregiving is mostly helping out. They picture small favors, bringing food, driving to rehab. They don't see the way it takes over your identity. You become a manager of someone else's survival and recovery. You become a translator between medical instructions and daily life. You become the person who remembers everything because if you don't remember, who will? I keep a notebook. I write down symptoms, dates, and what changed. I record medication times. I track what they ate, how their pain levels seem, how their mood shifts around therapy. This isn't me being obsessive for no reason. It's because when you talk to healthcare providers, you need specifics. You need to say, this started on this date, this happened after this exercise, this is how often. If you speak in vague terms, you get vague responses. So I learn to be precise. Even when I'm shaking inside, at the same time, I'm also trying to remain kind. Di ko gustong maging efficient pero emotionally absent. I still want my sibling to feel loved. I still sit with them, talk to them, hold their hand when they're scared. I still try to make the room warm, open the curtains, play soft music, bring small comforts. There are moments where they look at me with gratitude and my throat tightens because I can't explain how complicated it feels. Because the truth is, love does not cancel fatigue. Love does not refill your energy. Love is not a substitute for sleep. Love is not a replacement for having a support system. When I'm doing tasks, it's manageable. Do this, do that, finish, move on. But when everything gets quiet, that's when I feel it. The loneliness. The sense that my world has narrowed. There are times na I stand in the kitchen, hands wet from washing dishes, and I stare at the wall like I'm waiting for instructions on how to keep going. I used to be someone who looked forward to things. I used to plan. Ngayon, planning feels dangerous because a plan assumes stability. And stability is not guaranteed. I stopped committing to outings. I stopped promising friends I'd show up. I stopped making big decisions. I became cautious, like someone living beside a sleeping animal that might wake up angry at any time. People around me have opinions. Some are kind, some are careless. May nagsasabi ng kaya mo yan, may nagsasabi ng kapatid mo yan, may nagsasabi ng you're doing the right thing, I know they mean well. But sometimes those words feel like they close the door instead of opening it. Parang sinasabi nila, there is no alternative. Keep going. Smile. What they don't say is, you also deserve a life. They don't say, you are allowed to rest. They don't say, it is lawful and reasonable to ask for help. They don't say, your limits are not evidence of selfishness. And I think that's what I need. Permission. Not legal permission, but moral permission. The kind that quiets the shame. There are days when I feel anger. Not at anyone in particular, but at reality. Like, why does disability take so much? Sometimes I look at my siblings sleeping and I feel this wave of sadness so heavy, it's almost physical. I imagine who they were before and who they might have been if this never happened. I miss them even while they're still here. Then I feel guilty because I'm grieving someone who is alive. But it's real. It's like mourning in installments. My family situation is complicated but not sensational. Walang villain, walang dramatic betrayal. People have their own constraints, work, children, distance, health issues of their own. Some help financially, some visit when they can, some offer advice. But the daily care, yung ongoing, repetitive, unglamorous tasks falls mostly to me. That's the part people underestimate. They think help is one big action. In reality, help is consistency. And consistency is exhausting. I tried to talk about it once. I said, pagod na ako. The response was not cruel, but it wasn't helpful either. They said, kawawa naman siya. They meant my sibling, not me. I understand. Of course, my sibling's suffering is real and serious. But I left that conversation feeling invisible, as if my exhaustion is irrelevant compared to theirs. As if I'm not allowed to be human while doing this. So I became careful with my words. I learned to present my fatigue in small, acceptable amounts. Medyo pagod, busy, marami nang ginagawa. I kept it polite. I kept it controlled. I became a person who always sounds fine, but I'm not fine. There are moments when I catch myself thinking something I don't want to think. Like, what if it ends? Then I panic because that sounds like I want my sibling gone. And I don't. I want them safe. I want them comfortable. I want them treated with dignity. What I want to end is the constant pressure, the fear, the vigilance. I want one full day where my brain is not scanning for danger. I don't think people understand how fear can become a routine. You wake up, you check if they're okay before you even stretch. You listen for movement. You notice changes in tone. You become an interpreter of tiny signs. The way they grip the bed rail, the way they hesitate before transferring, the way they avoid eye contact when they feel ashamed. It's like living inside a quiet emergency. And because it becomes routine, you stop recognizing it as stress. You just call it life. The body keeps score, even when you're trying to be composed. My back hurts more than it used to. Sometimes I feel numb. Sometimes I cry quietly while folding laundry. I'm not proud of that, but it happens. I don't cry loudly. I don't throw things. I just leak. Like a faucet that won't fully turn off. There's also a strange shame about needing care yourself. Parang kabaligtaran ng role. As a caregiver, you're supposed to be the stable one. You're supposed to be the one who can handle details, who can answer questions, who can stay calm. And I can do that. Until I can't. Then I feel defective. Like I failed at being the strong person everyone thinks I am. I started reading about caregiver burnout a while ago, quietly. Hindi ako nag-research para magkaroon ng excuse. I just wanted to know if what I feel is normal. The general information out there is consistent. Chronic caregiving can cause stress, depression, anxiety, sleep problems, and physical health issues. People say take breaks, ask for help, respite care, support groups. Those words are real, but they're not always accessible. Breaks require someone to take your place. Help requires people to show up. Respite often costs money or requires arrangements. Support groups require time and emotional energy you may not have. And when you're already drowning, even asking for a life jacket feels like another task. Sometimes I fantasize about a simple thing. Waking up and making coffee without rushing. Drinking it slowly. Reading something unrelated to rehab. Walking outside without checking my phone every 5 minutes. That's it. Not a vacation, not a big dream, just a quiet morning. Then I feel guilty again because my sibling can't have that kind of morning anymore. And the guilt loops back. I want to describe a typical day not for sympathy but for clarity. Morning, I wake up earlier than I need to for work because I need to check on my sibling first. I listen, I look, I ask how they slept. I prepare food that fits what they can tolerate. I time the meds. I help set them up for exercises if prescribed. I clean up. I do a small load of laundry. I plan the rest of the day. Work. I try to focus. I answer emails. I attend meetings. My phone is always near. If I miss a call, I feel my stomach drop. If I get a message with, "Can you call me?" I feel heat in my face. I keep a polite tone on calls while my mind is calculating logistics. Who can cover what clinic, what document, what medication list. Evening, dinner, bath, transfers, mobility assistance, cleaning, setting up for the next day. I check supplies, gloves, wipes, prescriptions, appointment cards. I try to be gentle in my voice, even when I'm tired. Night, I lie down. My body is heavy, but my mind is alert. I listen for sounds. I keep my door slightly open. I tell myself to sleep. I don't fully sleep. Repeat, this is not a tragedy. It's just a grind. And maybe that's why it's hard to talk about. Because there's no single dramatic event. It's a long series of small sacrifices. It's a slow narrowing. It's the kind of suffering that doesn't look like suffering until you're deep into it. I also want to be fair to my sibling. They did not ask for disability. They did not choose this. They are also dealing with grief, loss of independence, and frustration. May days na nahihiya sila. May days na galit sila. May days na they're trying to be strong for me, and it shows in the way they force a smile. That breaks my heart. When they apologize for needing help, I tell them, okay lang, and I mean it. But inside, I also feel the weight of what okay lang costs. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror while I'm washing my hands, and I look older. Not physically older, but tired older. Like my face has learned a new expression, permanent alertness. I miss the version of myself who could be spontaneous. I miss the version of myself who could be bored. Boredom used to be annoying. Now it sounds like luxury. I have tried small coping strategies. I set boundaries with work where possible. I make lists so I don't forget tasks. I schedule my own medical checkups because I'm aware stress can harm health. I try to eat properly. I try to take short walks. I sometimes listen to music with earphones while doing chores, as if that can create a small private world. It helps, but it's not enough. The hardest part is the feeling that I'm not allowed to want anything else. Like if I say, I want my own life, someone will reply, so you're abandoning your sibling? And that fear keeps me silent. I'm scared of being judged, even by people who don't matter. I'm scared of judging myself. I know there are legal and practical realities. If you are the primary caregiver, there are obligations, medical, financial, safety related. You can't just disappear. You can't just take a week off without arranging coverage. You can't treat someone's care like a hobby you can pause. I understand that. I'm not asking for irresponsibility. I'm asking for sustainability. Because what is the alternative? Burn out completely? Become resentful in a way that shows? Get sick myself? Make mistakes because I'm exhausted? None of those outcomes serve my sibling. So, yes, I'm starting to believe that rest is part of care, not a luxury, a requirement. But believing that is different from living it. Here's something I'm ashamed to admit. Sometimes I feel jealous of people who share caregiving duties with siblings who actually participate daily. I see posts where people say, my sister covers weekends, or we rotate shifts, or we hired help, and my chest tightens. I'm happy for them. I truly am. But I also feel this quiet bitterness. Why do I have to fight for basic support? There are times where I thought about the concept of consent in caregiving. Not the initial consent, because of course, I agreed to help. But ongoing consent matters too. People change, limits change. A promise made in crisis may not account for years of sustained responsibility. If this were any other obligation, we would acknowledge the need to review terms. We would acknowledge renegotiation. But in family caregiving, renegotiation can be treated like betrayal. And yet, if I continue without renegotiation, I will break. I want to say something that might sound cold, but it's honest. Love is not infinite energy. Love is a reason, not a fuel tank. Love tells you stay. It doesn't automatically tell you how. Without support, love becomes a heavy thing you carry alone. Sometimes, in the middle of caregiving tasks, I have brief cinematic moments. Not dramatic, just vivid. Like when I'm preparing my siblings' meds and the room is quiet except for the small clink of pills in a container. And I feel this intense tenderness. I think this is someone's life. This is my sibling. I am here. For a second, I'm steady. Then I hear them call my name from the other room, weak voice, uncertain, and my chest tightens again because it means they need something. And I'm already tired. And I'm ashamed that I'm tired. There are also nights when they wake up in pain or panic. I get up, I guide them, I reassure them, I check what I can, I decide whether it's urgent, I try not to panic. After it passes, I go back to bed. but I'm not truly asleep anymore. I'm on standby. My body is in the bed, but my mind is sitting upright. During the day, people see me functioning, so they assume I'm fine. They don't see the night. I'm writing all this because I'm reaching a point where I need to say it plainly. I cannot continue like this without rest and shared responsibility. That statement scares me. It sounds like a threat, but it's not. It's a reality statement, like saying a car cannot run without fuel. It's not moral, it's physical. I'm also scared to admit that sometimes I want to be cared for, too. I want someone to look at me and say, "Sit down, I will handle it." I want someone to notice that I'm tense. I want to be asked, "How are you really?" And for that question to mean, your answer will matter. But I don't get that often. And I think part of it is my fault because I trained people to believe I can handle everything. I became reliable. I became competent. I became the person who says okay even when it's not okay. Reliability can become a mask. Another thing, I'm scared of what will happen to my sibling if I step back even slightly. That fear is real, but I'm also scared of what will happen to them if I don't step back. If I become too tired to notice symptoms, if I make mistakes, if I become emotionally numb, if I get sick, if I collapse, then what? The risk doesn't disappear, it just shifts. So I'm trying to choose the less dangerous path, sustainable care. I think part of the shame comes from this idea that caregiving should be purely selfless. Parang dapat wala kang ego, wala kang needs. But we're humans. We have limits. We have bodies. We have minds that can overload. There is nothing dignified about a caregiver destroying themselves quietly. It benefits no one. If you're reading this and you're also a caregiver, you probably understand the strange mix of love and resentment and guilt. You might also know the feeling of hearing yourself say kind words while your inside is begging for silence. If that's you, I am not here to give you a lecture. I just want you to know your exhaustion is not evidence that you love less. It's evidence that you are carrying something heavy. If you're reading this and you're not a caregiver, I'm not asking you to feel guilty. I'm asking you to see caregivers as people, not as strong machines. If someone in your life is caring for an ill relative or disabled sibling, please don't just say, "Let me know if you need anything." That phrase is polite, but it places the burden of asking on the exhausted person. If you truly want to help, offer something specific with a date and a time. I can sit with them Saturday 2 to 5 p.m. I can bring food Tuesday. I can handle the pharmacy pickup this week. Specific offers reduce mental load. I wish I could tell you I have a clean ending here. I don't. This is ongoing. Tomorrow, I will still wake up and listen for sounds from the other room. I will still prepare meds. I will still do what needs to be done. But I'm writing this because I need one thing from the internet, from strangers who have no stake in my family dynamics. Tell me it is not immoral to ask for help. Tell me it is not abandonment to set boundaries. Tell me it is reasonable to want my own life to continue, even while I care for someone else's. I love them. I do. I don't want applause for that. I want a sustainable way to keep loving them without losing myself. If you made it this far, thank you for reading. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for more stories. Once again, I'm Lechon, and I'll see you next time.